Doing it. All right. Good afternoon, Miss Katie. How are you today?
Good morning to you, Mr. Nelson. I am happy to be here with you. As what we just said might be one of our last live streams together, so we got to make it a good one.
It's the end of an era.
I know. It's the end of a decade.
It's a good thing we're friends, and I'll see you.
I know.
Otherwise, I'd be much more sad. But I'm actually not that sad. I'm excited for you in the next chapter. I really am.
Yeah, it's a little bittersweet, but I'm looking forward to it.
All right. Well, we're not here to go down memory lane and talk about all that crap. We're here to talk about the RIA board election and nominations, because we've got this whole bag of tricks that we're going to roll out upstream of our next convention. And I guess my first question for you today is, if I'm an RIA member and I know somebody in my circle who I think would be great for the board, I guess my first question would be, what are we looking for?
I was going to turn that around on you and say, why would you think they're great? Because I can tell you what might make somebody a great member for the RIA board. So we are actively searching for candidates for our board of directors seats. We have 5 seats open this year for our election season, and we are looking for dynamic individuals who really have a genuine interest in the well-being of the restoration industry. We're looking for people who are not just big thinkers, but big doers as well. We need people who can manage their time, who can show up to meetings and be prepared, who have the bandwidth to volunteer. But we're looking for people who have their finger on the pulse of the industry, so that you know what's happening inside of your company. Even if it's a larger or smaller company size, does not matter, but you need to know the struggles that restorers are facing every day in their business, and then also be able to help us craft a strategy to be able to do something about that. So we're problem solvers, but relationship builders as well. There's so many challenges for us to tackle in the restoration industry, but so many parties that we have to work with. So we have to be real careful and smart and strategic about how we approach those things to be able to build bridges as we go. So we're looking for people who can see big picture initiatives there and just really have a genuine desire to leave our industry better than you found it. Volunteering with RIA is not a resume builder, and it's not one of those what's in it for me situations. It's really, what else can I do to serve other people who do what I do every day?
So wait, my board experience does not circumvent going and getting an MBA or anything like that?
Sorry.
Dang it. I was really hoping to not go back to college, but still be able to say I had a master's degree. And so are there any prerequisites to be on the RIA?
Yes, there are. You have to be an RIA member in good standing for at least 1 year. We do have to offset our own travel costs to get to meetings. So you do need to be able to pay for your travel to any meetings, and have the time and the focus to be able to dedicate to attending our board meetings, serving on task force or committees, and being able to attend those meetings as well. And then it's preferred that you have some type of volunteer experience with RIA. The application is going to ask you things about your convention attendee experience in the last few years. It's going to, ask if you've ever volunteered with us in the past. If you haven't, that's okay. You can still volunteer, but just know that our ideal candidate has had quite a bit of exposure to RIA, has had some history with us, and understands who we are and why we do what we do.
Yeah, I know for me, when folks express an interest in joining the board, my first response is get involved in a committee.
Yeah.
And it'll give you the flavor of whether or not it's a good fit for you, right? You have to be okay giving freely of your time. And sometimes that's easier said than done. But it has to fill your cup, right? And if it fills your cup and then you're motivated, then it kind of works. All the other boxes get a little easier to check. That's just my 2 cents.
It also helps us understand how you work as a volunteer. It helps us to see how dependable you are, what kind of assets you bring to our team. We have a couple of examples of people that have applied in the past and didn't have much exposure to us. We plugged them into a committee. We saw them at work. We've been blown away with how well they've done there. And we said, make sure you get that application turned back in, or either let's update last year's application, get it freshened up for this year. We'd love to have you back into the fold again this year. So we do actively try to place you into some group within RIA so that we can get a feel for you. You can get a feel for us. And we'll see if we're a good fit.
Got it. And so if, let's say and can you nominate yourself? I don't know the answer to that
You
question.
have to nominate yourself, and don't let that stop you. That I'm not gonna lie, like 10 years ago, that stopped me. I was like, I'm not nominating myself. That's just weird. It didn't feel right. And so I finally got over that. And you do need to fill out your own application. You also have to sign it yourself. So it is a self-apply type thing, but don't let that stop you. And if you're being called to do this, then filling out the application is just one easy step. But we want to know why you want to volunteer with us and why you want to do this. So the application process helps us get to know a little bit more about you and your intentions to serve.
Okay. And I kind of want to, I don't know what the question I want to ask you is. So I'll just begin with the outcome. And this is something I've had to battle against as being a board member. How do we dismiss the idea that this is a good old boys and girls club?
We get involved. If you feel that that's still the reputation that we have, then you should actively seek out someone that might disprove that theory, and that would be a great representative of the industry. You tap them on the shoulder and you say, hey, I think you'd be a great person to be an RIA Board of Director. And you also vote. That's important, is that if you don't do anything, there's one of my favorite Peloton instructors says that you can't be mad at the results you didn't get from the work you didn't do. And so voting for RIA is so easy. It's really just opening an email, clicking a few times, and that's it. So if, the slate that we present every year disproves that old, reputation that we have, you just have to get out and vote and choose who you'd like to see representing you.
Yeah, I think on the last elections that we ran, of the nominees that were presented, I only knew one or two of them personally. Like there was a section of folks I'm like, I don't even know who this individual is. And I actually was forced to do my own research and be like, okay, like, are they going to, like hypothetically decide based on what I saw about them and what I heard about them in the industry as to whether or not I felt like they were going to be good on the board? And so I think that, we do a pretty dang good job of disproving that, but I wanted to make sure that I gave it airtime because I know that's sometimes a question in people's heads.
Yeah, and on our nominating committee, we always approach this from the standpoint that our board should represent our membership. So we want it to be an accurate representation of everyone in the fold of RIA membership. So we really keep that top of mind when we're putting a slate forward. But like you just said, to do the research, we make it pretty easy for you. You can do Meet the Candidates videos. You can listen to it via podcast. Whatever platform works best for you, we're going to give you the information that you need to make a solid decision if you don't know any of our candidates.
Cool. And so nominations go in. What's the process by which you guys determine the actual slate? That's what it's called, right? The slate, the people that make it.
Yes, the ones who make it. We have a nominating committee. We review all of the applications. Then we divide and conquer. We have calls with each person that has put an application in. And even if the application comes in and they don't have a lot of experience with us and they've never attended a convention, they've never volunteered, we still have a call with them just to get to know a little bit more about them. And then as a group, we discern which candidates to put forward that would be, ideal candidates for the board, and then we give our members the choice of who they'd like to put forward.
Got it. And so then once we've got our list, then you do the Meet the Candidate interviews, correct?
We do. Those will be taking place this year, March 10th through the 12th. So right now our applications are open. So we'll be taking applications until the end of January. Then we'll be doing our vetting of candidates from that point till March. And so we'll have candidates ready for your review by March 10th. And then we'll have, either I think CNR may help us out with this. We usually do either a podcast or either a live stream where you can meet the candidates. And then our elections will be taking place March 17th through the 24th. So that's the timeline. So we should have our new members elected by the end of March.
Who's doing the meet the candidate interviews?
Well, that's funny you should say that because I think you had volunteered, but Anthony, your term on the board expires, so you have to run again. So I said, well, wait a minute, how's Anthony going to do this? He can't.
No, I don't want to interview myself. I do that every day. It's going to be awkward if I do that.
You do such a good job with these interviews. You should be able to do it, but I think you might have an unfair advantage there if you're interviewing yourself. So we thought that maybe we'll come up with a plan B. So don't worry, I've already thought of that.
Okay. All right. Well, yeah, hopefully you get somebody who's hard hitting like I am. That doesn't shy away from the hard questions, right?
Well, we do ask every candidate the exact same question because we want them to all have a fair shot. So we try to think of the 3 or 4 of the most impactful questions that will really get to the heart of the person and their intentions to serve. So we all give them the same questions, but they do need to put quite a bit of thought into it, and they do reveal quite a bit about what's important to that person.
And then, so after we do the meet the candidates, when does voting take place?
Elections start March 17th, and elections are done via email. So each RIA member gets an email sent to their inbox. So if you don't recall getting these emails in the past, somebody in your organization is most likely getting them, but you may need to just reach out to our membership team and just get your information updated if you don't get regular emails from the RIA. But one email goes out to each member company, and from there you click on that link, and that's where our ballot is. So it's an electronic ballot, and all you have to do is check your email to be able to receive it.
Got it. And so voting takes place electronically, and then we tally those results. And so how many spots do we have again? Sorry.
5. There are 5 open seats.
5 open seats.
Yes.
And so then is it here's first through 5th place?
No. Here are our 5 new board directors. There is no placing. There's just 5 people. The top 5 vote earners.
And so when we're voting, we would have 5 votes then? Is that how that works?
Yes. Okay. You will have 5 votes. You will have more than 5 people on the ballot, most likely.
Okay, good. Well, I want it to be competitive, I don't want a participation trophy, Katie.
For many, many years, even when I ran for the board a long time ago, there was basically a few seats open and the exact number of candidates matched the number of seats. Many years ago, this was not something that people actually wanted to do. So we've come a long way where people have really gotten excited about RIA, especially with our advocacy initiatives, and people just want to be a part of it. So we're really just really thankful that so many people want to be a part of this amazing organization. So where we are now with elections is so different. So we have quite a few candidates to vet, and we want it to be a competitive election as well. So that's a good place to be. It's not always where we've been with RIA, though.
And so if I'm somebody who's considering running, tell me what I could expect as far as experience on being on the board. I mean, you've got a lot of numbers of years of being on the board. I think you're in a great position to answer that question. And I have my own answers, but I'd love to hear from you.
The first thing I'm just going to say is just a culture of people who will roll their sleeves up and get stuff done for the greater good of the industry. So there is a true team mentality and a community, and it's just really an amazing warmth that you receive as soon as you're there. So there's great relationships there because we have to work together and depend on each other to get stuff done. So we do meet most of the time via Zoom. We have a mix of in-person and Zoom meetings. We do meet at the convention, usually the day before programming starts. So we have a couple of times a year where we have in-person, like half-day meetings. So we are spending a little bit more time together, sometimes full-day meetings. So there is time that is spent as a large group, as a board together, working through bigger strategic items and voting on action items. And then we do expect everyone on our board to be involved in some way, shape, or form with one of our task forces or with one of our standing committees. With AGA, we have tons of ways for people to get involved. So we do ask that everyone, in addition to being a board member, you take up the task of serving in some other capacity. So there is a time commitment that is involved there as well. And so you could be spending a few hours a week. You could be spending 5 hours a month. It just kind of depends on what the initiatives are at the time. We get a little bit busier close to convention time. We kind of ramp up a little bit there. Summertime, a lot of people kind of take a lot of time away. So we kind of go in seasonal waves there, but there's always work being done. And so your time commitment just depends on where you plug into, what you're passionate about, and where your talents can best serve other people. But we always understand that as a volunteer, you have a regular job that you're responsible for as well. So we try not to make volunteering a burden. We are focused on volunteer joy and making sure that being involved in this organization is something that you look back on when you're done, and it's kind of a bittersweet moment. It's not, oh, I'm so glad that's over. Like, it's so glad I got to be a part of this.
And I will say that from my personal experience, there's two things that I'm reflecting on right now. The first one being, it's very much so an environment of strong convictions, loosely held, where, like, I have my opinions on what I think is best for the industry, I've always been encouraged and been accepted to express those opinions and be vocal about them. And I've never been in a situation where somebody shot down my perspective. However, I also am aware that I have to be willing to change position and view what needs to be done through an industry lens. Like, the way that I would do things as an individual or with my restoration company may not be what's best for the industry at large.
Right.
And so I have to be willing to look at, like, kind of change my glasses, so to speak, and look at things through that lens.
Always. There's so many other perspectives that you hear that make you change your way of thinking. But as you said, we are always looking at everything through the lens of what's best for the industry. And at the end of the day, that's where we always land. Sometimes we have to have some, I say conflict, but healthy conflict, as you want to have in any organization where you're having different viewpoints expressed in a very respectful way. And it's very just wonderful to me to be in that space with people who do really amazing things, have great companies, and we're all kind of some strong personalities, but when we get there, there's a sense of humility and setting those egos aside, and we're not there for ourselves. We're there to help and serve other people, and that's a really rare situation to find yourself in sometimes now.
Yeah. And I think my second reflection is I've volunteered a lot. It's just kind of a part of my culture and who I am as an individual. I kind of can't, like, I have a hard time getting up in the morning and justifying my existence if I'm not trying to make a difference. And RIA as an entity and the individuals involved have always been very, very respectful of those volunteer hours and that volunteer commitment. I think that's one thing we really, really do better than the average bear, is being respectful that these are volunteer hours. This is volunteer time, and finding the way to make things work and get things done in an elegant fashion, knowing that everybody's got accountabilities outside of the organization. And there's something cool that just makes that whole thing work. I haven't figured it out. If I ever do, I'll write a book, but it's pretty special.
It is.
Anything else that we need to know about nominations or elections that I forgot to talk about?
So just as I said, you can look on restorationindustry.org. Applications are due now until January 31st. If you are watching this and you're wondering if this might be a fit for you, you can reach out to me. You can reach out to Anthony on LinkedIn, send us a message. We'd be happy to have a call with you to answer any questions that you have. But please don't let the fact that you need to fill out your own application stop you if you feel called to serve other restorers. So just make sure that if you're thinking about it, do your due diligence, ask a lot of questions, and regardless, just fill out the application and let us have our interview with you. And there may be some things that we tell you that you might want to work on in the next year, but if you know where you want to go 5 years from now, you got to start somewhere. And so maybe today you're starting somewhere is step one, filling out the application.
Yeah, I completely agree. And then for convention, we opened the auxiliary hotel room blocks. And so if you weren't able to get in on the first round of blocks, the auxiliary blocks are open. And if you've looked at what hotel prices are in other hotels outside of those room blocks, you'll notice that there's a staggering discount on those hotel blocks. And so this is just that call to action for everybody who might consider attending this year. If you don't want to have to chop off an arm and a leg to get your hotel room and get it in a place that's close, get those rooms booked right now.
Yeah, and I know that's not ideal. And as we grow, we plan these conventions out years in advance, and every year we just have more and more demand. So we're already thinking about that years out now of how we can have more space available to us and not have to have that overflow hotel. So we get it; it's not ideal, but we appreciate everyone who's willing to do whatever it takes to be in person with us in April in Palm Beach.
Yeah, it's going to be great. All right, anything to close us out?
No, I want to just thank you again for always being like the perfect person to host these interviews. And I just thank you so much for all the time that you spend on doing this. I'm going to miss this.
Yeah, it is one of those labors of love. It does fill my cup, and I really enjoy doing it. And I'm happy to, and hopefully it benefits the industry and achieves my personal mission of making the industry a good place for my kids.
Thank you.
Thank you.